Hi everyone, this is Ping Robert. Welcome back to Chai with Ping. In this episode, Sasha and I were talking about some identity issues, and we also mentioned our first impression about Black people. And I just want to put a disclaimer here: we're not trying to devalue or to minimize the racial biases that we had. However, both of us we have grown so much after we mature and we receive more education. So we were just telling our story from a personal perspective that how we perceive people from a different race and now how we progressed it. So I hope that the people out there won't be offended. And also, we just want to say that we stand together with our ally with different races. All right, let's get started.
Welcome to Chai with Ping. This is Ping Robert, and in this podcast, we will cover a range of different topics from culture, languages, and underrepresented stories. Join me with a cup of chai and listen to these stories.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Chai with Ping. Today we have a very special guest and I like her so much. We met at a dialogue retreat and that's one of the reasons that I started doing this podcast is because I just love hearing people's stories and she definitely have a very interesting and inspirational story. So we met in the University of Denver and she is just so cool and I will talk about cultural differences and being a bilingual and bicultural person and in the end how she identifies herself as an immigrant. So let's welcome Sasha.
Oh, hello.
Hey, thank you so much for coming to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. This is so cool.
Do you like chai?
I love chai, but this is something I've gotten into many debates with friends and strangers and anyone who will talk to me. The fact that chai is both an Indian and a Russian word.
Oh.
And for that's how we say tea in Russian.
Okay.
And in Russia, tea is just like a tea bag. There's no spice, there's no milk necessarily, right?
Okay.
And so when you order chai at a tea house and they gave me like this like spicy kind of milky thing, I'm like, what is this?
Oh.
Why are there spices? Because we don't have spices in Russia, right?
Yeah,
so I'm like,
yeah.
why is this hurting me when I'm drinking it? Yeah.
Very
funny.
So interesting. Yeah. And then that actually just hit our topic today. Like you said that you moved to the States when you were 5 from Russia with your family. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so when I was, if we back it up, my mom and I are from a city that it's like a small to medium-sized little province in Russia called Buryatia. And the city itself is called Ulan-Ude, and it's the capital of the province. So we're like the city girls of this very poor small province. So it's, and my mom never considered herself to be someone who often aspired to move to the United States, even though that is a very common narrative among people in Russia. I don't know about other countries, but Russia for sure. Going to America was like winning the lottery. Like if you could just marry someone, if you could make it over there, your life would be so much better. And my mom was actually in journalism. So she worked as a TV newscaster and her career was just taking off when she met this American over like, I don't know, AOL Live, something from before my time, like some chat thing.
Oh, I happen to be in that era. I know what it is.
Yeah, so they met over that, whatever old people used to communicate, right?
Yeah.
Back in the day. No, I'm just kidding. And they ended up falling in love and she moved to America to marry him. And that's how my mom and I came here. But it wasn't ever something that she aspired to do. And so I think for that reason, we had a very different vision of what America was. It wasn't this kind of holy land where everything would be paved with gold and so easy. And because it's totally not. But yeah.
I'm pretty sure a lot of immigrants are laughing right now because like probably we have a very different vision about the US and then when we move here it's not the same.
Exactly.
Yeah. What was the first memory that you had when you were a little child and moving here to the US?
Okay, I have these two distinct, very ridiculous stories. And these stories in no way reflect my, oh goodness, and this is such an interesting time to mention these stories, but I was little. Okay, I was little, and I didn't understand the concept of different colored people and different people of different, I don't know. I had no conception. Um, and it's funny because in Russia, there are very few, I suppose, there's a very small diversity of, a very non-diverse set of looking, people don't look diverse. People all kind of look the
Ah,
same.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like almost like a single ethnic group, right?
Yeah, kind of. And so from in the area where my mom is from, everyone was pretty much white, kind of. Some people were more Asian looking because they immigrated from the southern parts of Mongolia and China, but like for the most part, it was like white people. And if you think of a white Russian stereotype, it's like white blonde girl, white blonde guy, like really, these sort of blue eyes. And so in Russia, it's pretty traditional to refer to someone as a color, but meaning their hair. So when we came to America, my mom would say, "Oh, look at that black girl," meaning a girl with black hair who is white. And I was like, "What do you mean?" But anyway, all this to say that everyone looks the same in Russia. So we came to America, and I was little, I was 5. And we saw a gentleman walking in the street, and I was like, "Mom, look at that man's purple lips." Because it was the first African American man I'd ever seen in my life. And I was like, "Mom, why are his lips purple? Is he okay?" And that was one of my first memories in America. But okay, see, part of the funny thing is the way I said purple because I was little, and it was basically like, look at that man's purple lips, purple lips.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the word in purple is fioletowy,
Yeah.
fioletowy gubы. Yeah.
Well, I have to confess, like I also had that kind of situation. It's like when I first saw like real African people in Taiwan, I look at their hands and it's like they're so dark around. I didn't know that their palm will be a lot fairer than elsewhere of their body. So I actually told I told my family, it's like I never knew their
It's
palm
these little
can be
things, yeah, that catch you off guard.
like,
Yeah.
yeah. And you said there was another story?
Oh my gosh, yeah. We were at the post office. I don't know. These are not really American stories. These are more
That's
like
fine. That's
my
fine.
childish naivety. We were at the post office. We were standing in line. This gentleman had his baby in like a baby carrier, and the baby was little, like an infant still. And I came up to it and I started talking to him, and I was like, "Oh, your baby is so little. How old is it?" And he was like, "It's 5." And so I was still learning English, and so to me, I was 5. The baby can't be 5 if I am 5. So I was like, he can't be 5 because I'm 5. And the gentleman was like, "Well, you're 5 years. He's 5 months." And I was like, "Did you make him?" I was just so angry. I don't know why. It was just the first thing I said. "Did you make him?" And then he was like, "Well, yes, technically." I get, and like not knowing if this was the time to start a conversation about reproductive health with a 5-year-old in the post, but everyone started laughing. Apparently, I don't know. Yeah. But no, my mom tells me a lot of stories of how I would be kind of the one translating for her. And like we were at the store one time and this gentleman was telling her a story and he really wanted her to laugh and she
Yeah.
didn't understand. And I was like, "Mom, this is where you laugh." And she's like, "Oh yeah, I get it. But just like lots of those little situations where I was the one translating. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. And then so just you and your mom at the time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And wow, okay. And because I noticed that you talked about cross-cultural differences, and there are two parts, literal and emotional. What are those for you?
Yeah. I mean, literal cross-cultural differences, I think, are really just as a small person being in a place where everything is completely different, literally a different culture. And it kind of felt like nothing I did was quite right. And especially in elementary school, it was funny because, like, I don't know, is it weird to eat a bell pepper or like a tomato just as a snack? I feel like it's not weird, but I would bring them to snack time. And all the American kids would be like, "Why are you eating a tomato?" I'm like, "What do you mean? I'm just eating a tomato."
We do that too in
Yeah,
Taiwan. Yeah, that's like the fruits. We call it fruits. It's also provided after our school lunch.
yeah,
So
it's like
everyone
super
will be,
standard.
yeah.
Yeah, but like in America, they were like, "Why are you eating a tomato by itself?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" It's just, but just like all these little things, I couldn't understand why they were weird. And like, I would have a sleepover at my friend's house, or like vice versa, and I would immediately take off my shoes. And they're like, "Oh, you don't have to take off your shoes." I'm like, "What do you mean? I'm in
When you
your
enter the
house.
yeah.
I need to take off my shoes." Like, no, 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 no. And then they like get into bed with their shoes on, and I'm like, "Oh my god!" My mind is just exploding. I'm like, ah. But
Put the
that's such a
shoes
literal
down.
one. Yeah, 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 yeah. Take, and like people going to bed in their street clothes. The minute I get home, my mom was like, "Change into your home clothes. What are you doing in your? Where are you going?"
Yeah. Hey,
Yeah,
this is very, very new because I didn't know. I thought it was an Asian thing, but like apparently it's also like your home culture.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So like, is it, I don't know how often do you go back to Russia, but like, would you say like taking off shoes before entering someone's house is a very common practice?
Yeah, well, I mean, I would say so. I think there's a pretty good Russian community in Colorado, kind of
Okay.
around.
Yeah.
And so I'm able to sort of compare with that because I've not had a chance to go back and I really want to. But yeah, no, these kinds of little things are very much culturally driven. And also just like my mom talks a lot about looking nice when you go out. Like I'll try and go out without, I don't know, once upon a time when I had hair, without doing my hair or like something, and be like, go fix yourself, you look ugly, do something to yourself. Just these little cultural things.
Yeah.
Um,
So for the listener who haven't seen Sasha, right now she has very like short cut of hair, but before she had long hair and she's just beautiful either way.
Thank you.
And then yeah, let's talk about the expression I had for you when you cut your hair to donate to a foundation or a center thingy.
Mhm.
And when I saw you after you got a haircut, what did I say to you?
Oh, I can't. Ah, oh my gosh, my ping. I don't remember. It was like, why did you cut your
Something
hair?
like that. I think I said what happened.
Oh yeah, like what happened to you? Did you get lice? Like that was like the content. Wait, where did all your hair, your beautiful hair? No, that's
Yeah.
that's super common as well. I mean, I don't. I look like Mad Max Furiosa now, kind of. I hope the listeners just like Google it if you
We should
don't.
we should probably just put it on the episode cover.
Yes,
Like,
instead of
right?
me.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
We put it side by side. That's something we can do too.
No,
But
but
then,
yeah, there's
yeah,
this funny joke in a Russian cartoon where the one of the main female characters says she's like upset with her grandma and she's like, "Grandma, I'm gonna run away, cut off my pigtails, and go to a monastery." And like those are all horrible things. Like cut off her
yeah.
pigtails. Oh no. Yeah, just like these traditional sort of conceptions of what a woman's supposed to look like for sure.
It's just like how the hair plays a role in the culture. For me, why I reacted that way, it could be, maybe it's just because like in my culture or a lot of Taiwanese will say, they cut off their hair because they lost, like they broke up with someone,
Oh yeah.
especially for girls. And so, or they just want a huge change of mood. So then I think that's like ingrained in my heart so that I kind of, when I saw you, I was surprised. I was like, what happened? Because I thought, and then
Oh.
I totally forgot that you're not from the same culture. So that's why, like, what happened? Did someone hurt you or something like that? But for you said, like, American will never say that to you.
You know, you're not actually halfway wrong. That's pretty close to the reaction I get from American culture as well.
Okay.
When I first cut it, because I've gone through a lot, I like to cut my hair short and then grow it out and then donate it. And I've done this a couple times now.
Yeah,
But the
yeah.
first time I did it, a lot of the reactions I've gotten were like, "Oh, did your boyfriend break up with you?" Like that's pretty common in America too.
Yeah, yeah.
Like something had to have happened. You can't just have short hair.
Yeah.
What's going on in your life, type of thing. It's
Mm.
interesting. That's very intercultural. Um,
Yes, yes, and that's just something very fun. And then even like when you react to what I said, I was like, oh, there was a difference like in between the lines and the context I have never thought about.
mhm,
And
mhm.
so, what are cultures, or how do they play the role in your life, other than when you're small?
Yeah, I think going to college and sort of participating in the a global residential living and learning community I did at the University of Denver was really cool because, I mean, growing up, I very much tried to distance myself from Russian culture because it was in part embarrassing. with all the sort of little experiences I had, like the tomato thing in elementary school, I kind of started to believe that my Russian culture was something that was other and that I should try and kind of, because I'm in America, I should be an American type thing, right? And it's funny because also my best friend in elementary school, her father worked for the government, no, like elementary school to high school. We've been friends for a long time. Her father worked for the government. He was in the Navy. And we had a sleepover one night, and I found this trunk in their basement. And on the trunk, it said, "The only good Russian is a dead one," which was wild. It was what my little heart. I was like, oh no, I'm going to die. But no, that was kind of the metaphorical death of the importance I placed on my own culture. Yeah.
And I'm like, what's the context with that trunk?
Well, after the Cold War, Americans and sort of McCarthyism and trying to make sure you're not a communist, Americans were very much against Russians in general, and he was alive during that time, and I think just sort of held those same beliefs, and that was probably just kind of a souvenir of his, I don't know, times. But yeah, apparently he had to inform, like, he has to do polygraph lie detector tests, and he had to like let them know that his daughter had a friend who was from Russia, like a foreign national was in his, like it was just this whole thing. And I never realized it was such a big deal. And maybe it's not. But at the time, I was like, oh my gosh, no one can know. This is so bad.
So, like, do you have the U.S. citizenship or
I do.
Okay.
I'm a
And do
citizen.
you have the Russian one as well?
No, that's the thing. So I would have had to renew it when I was 14, and I didn't because I was here. And so
Okay.
I'm actually working on getting it now, but it's just so tedious. I have to go to Washington, D.C., and I have to present my passport. Like, it's just so much. But yeah, no, I'm an
Yeah.
American citizen.
Okay. And then you can be dual citizen as
I
well.
can. Yeah,
Because
yeah. I
like
think
for
you have
some
to like,
countries you can.
yeah. You have to like visit back and forth.
Yeah. And tell me why, because a lot of people move here when they're small and then they do the same thing just like you, distinguish them from their own culture to assimilate to the American culture. Why would you identify that part of you and then try to bring it back?
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is actually very reminiscent of like a cultural learning inventory I did with the Pioneer Leadership Program, where you kind of go through these stages when you learn about culture. It goes from like denial to I don't remember, acceptance and like integration, something, but it basically starts out with you trying to suppress differences in culture and then sort of starting to recognize differences but not quite know what to do with them. And then in integration, this kind of final stage, you're able to fluidly move between cultures and sort of do this thing called code switching, where you're able to switch in different contexts depending on who you're talking to. And being an immigrant, you're confronted with that every single day. I know I definitely was, in going from my house where we only spoke Russian to school where it was all English, and having to juggle this kind of thing where I was really on my own for academics, and like, because like, what is my mom going to help me with? Like English writing? No. And so because I was so constantly exposed to that, I went through those steps a lot more quickly. And in doing so, I was able to recognize that my own culture wasn't something to be afraid of or to shun or try to hide. And so I like progressively became super proud of it. And so if anyone asks, like totally Russian, totally an immigrant, like come at me, bro, And I think I've seen a lot of my peers start going through this from study abroad and going to a school that has some minority students in it. They're starting to confront these new ideas, and it's different for them. And some of them aren't responding in great ways. So I feel like that's kind of where I step in as a multicultural person. I'm like, hello, we're not scary. Let's chat,
Oh, yeah, I think that's also one of the first thing I remember about you, because like you came to me to practice Mandarin, and so I'm asking like, are you from here? And then you're like, I think you mentioned like Russia immediately, well, in the very first conversation. So then I thought like you actually came to the US when you're a lot older, but like when I found out like 5, and I was like, you don't sound like Russian. So it's like those kind of stereotype that I have to admit, even as an international student being here, we still have that kind of stereotype against about other people or even your culture. And so for me, it's just like, why do you choose to be both? Right? You already have great English and you grew up here and you're immersed with the culture. But like I see your passion of being in both and then also cherish your home culture. And tell me a little bit about like your desire of learning Russian.
Yeah, you know what? It's hard, especially kind of growing up in both and in a sense not really feeling like I belong to either. And like I mean, most immigrants say that because that's how you grow up. But like seriously, I might Russian isn't like perfect. And for that reason, I can't really talk to Russian people without feeling like a little bit nervous that I'm going to say something wrong. So going to the Russian store, I'm like a little nervous, even though that's like literally my culture and my people. I'm still nervous. And honestly, I fit into American culture a lot better than I do Russian. And that kind of makes me sad. And I don't know why. I feel like I need to hold on to what I had in the past because it sort of differentiates me as a person. And it is part of me. And I think it's kind of this self-fulfilling prophecy where if I think that I don't belong to a culture, then I won't. But if I kind of hold on to it and I tell myself that I do, then I will. And it's all really in my head at this point, and who knows? And I think I've also grown up in such a way that I never think that there are these things that are holding me back.
Yeah.
Like just because I'm an immigrant doesn't mean that I can't do all these things. I can't become the president, which is terrible because I've been voted most likely to become president second time in a row. Horrible. Can't do it. Can't do it. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Well, I'm pretty sure that you can do something else. Not everyone should be the president, but you definitely bring out more impact.
Absolutely.
But like, I'm also wondering, does your mom has a say in all that identity for you?
My mom, I think she is kind of the staple of Russian culture for me. Like, if she stayed in Russia somehow and I came here, I would have no tie to Russian culture at all. I guarantee you, I would have just fully assimilated. I think to have that kind of passion, there has to be something tying you back. And for me, it was my mom. Yeah. I don't know. And I just kind of feel like if I identified with either being fully an American or fully a Russian, that would be losing an enormous part of my narrative as a person. And I just can't bring myself to just choose one.
And I also heard that you said that at home, you guys, like you and your stepsister and mom, you all speak Russian. And I just wonder, like, how your mom's identity influenced your identity. Is there any influence or?
I think growing up in a single parent household, I am basically like a bad photocopy of my mom. Like to me, my mom is like perfect. And then I'm just kind of like,
That's the only person that you look up to. And
yeah, well, I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Did you talk to her about like why she doesn't speak English with you? Because a lot of immigrant parents, even though their native language is so fluent and their English is like, but like they just kind of force their kids force themselves, and not their kids, force themselves to speak only English to their kids. And that's a pathway to, assimilation. But I don't know like how your mom is doing when she speaks only Russian to you guys.
It's kind of funny. Yeah, my mom's English is just so bad that if she tried to speak it at all times, we would never know what was happening. And that's pretty much the only reason.
Yeah. And then you guys also understand enough Russian that she can just keep it that way.
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly. Yeah. It's funny because my little sister actually doesn't speak Russian very much. She can speak like a little bit, but it's so bad. But she's great. She's trying, but she can understand Russian, and it's just this crazy like psychological case study just in the room over. This child can fully understand Russian, but she cannot speak it, and it's wild. And I have seen like talk shows where that's been the case, where someone's like, "Yeah, I can't speak my native language, but I can understand it if I listen." And I'm like, "What do you mean? If you can hear it, you can say it." But no, like literally, it's right there. It's interesting. It's really interesting.
Yeah, well, yeah, I've seen a lot of people like that, including my dad. So my grandparents speak Cantonese to him, like purely, completely in Cantonese. Even they moved to Taiwan like so long ago. my dad can understand everything in Cantonese, but he cannot speak very well. So I
That's
guess that's,
interesting.
yeah, it's like because I also study language, like the input is a lot more different than your output. So it's like you can understand and receive it, but when it comes to putting it out to other people or to speak it, it doesn't make the same sense as you're listening.
No, absolutely. And I also think
Yeah,
there's something to do with kind of just the multidimensional nature that is language as a seeing and like feeling person.
yeah,
You have, I feel I have a completely different relationship with language than I would if I couldn't necessarily see someone.
yeah,
Because my sister, for example, can understand from contextual clues what's happening and what
yeah,
my mom is saying, even if she
yeah.
doesn't understand exactly what the Russian words are.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think if you were to play her an audio of a Russian person speaking, she would probably have a harder time understanding.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's so cool, just how much you can gain from these contextual clues.
I know. And also it's like almost like a survival conversation skill that you need to have at home. Yeah. So language is a mystery. I like it and I still don't understand it fully. But like you as bilingual and then you still learn Spanish and Mandarin. Tell us why.
um, well, I don't. So in middle school, we had to pick between three languages. We had to learn French, Japanese, or Spanish. And I was a total weeaboo at the time. And I came to my mom. I was like, Mom, I'm learning Japanese. And I had like my sensei, whatever her name was, and I was totally committed to Japanese. I really wanted to learn it. And I came home to my mom and I was like, you're not learning Japanese. You're going to learn a useful language that you can use in your future. And I was like, okay. I was like, I don't want to learn French. So I learned
Just
Spanish.
like that.
Yeah.
Wait, we just kind of offended every Japanese here on the show.
Take it up with my mom. No,
Yeah.
I completely agree.
Personal
No.
opinion, not Sasha.
No, not Sasha. No, I was, yeah. And now it's funny because my sister's learning Japanese. Take it,
Oh.
Mom. Heck, yeah.
After how many years do you have in between her than your sister?
Oh, 10 years.
Oh, after 10
Yeah.
years, her mom changed her mind.
My mom has become so lenient after 10 years as well. Everything is allowed. I could do nothing. I couldn't play soccer because it was dangerous. Like, this is ridiculous. Absolutely disrespectful.
I think, yeah, that's usually happened to the firstborn. It's like the parents are so strict. But like to the secondborn, they're like, it's okay. And then we kind of forget like, how they raise their
You want
firstborn.
fruit roll-ups every meal of the day? Sure. Why not? Just go eat what you want.
So food rolls for the listeners are who are outside of the US. Food roll is like a piece of, I don't know how to describe that. It's like made of dried juice, and then you can peel it off and then roll it into a little cigar thingy, and you just eat it, but it's super sweet. Is that how you describe it?
Yeah. It's just this horrible piece of candy that tastes so good. And yeah.
And it's flat, so you
It's
can roll
gummy.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's food roll. It was horrifying when I first saw it in Taiwan. Like some other like international friends brought it to my parents, and I'm like, what is it? Why is it so colorful?
There's so many flavors. It's so natural.
Yeah. And then you learn Spanish I don't know. I hear you speaking Spanish and it just sounded so great.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. So I learned it for all of high school because it's not real language learning in my middle school. It was just like, we're pretending to learn Spanish and you pretend to know it. Anyway, so like in high school, I actually learned it. And I did some volunteer trips in Costa Rica. And then I went backpacking in Spain and also France and Greece with my friends. And these are all things that I was immensely privileged to do. And my language skills would not be where they are if I didn't have the chance to do that. But yeah, the trip to Costa Rica was really what sort of solidified it, because being in a place where you don't understand necessarily what's happening and you have to rely on the language is so crucial. And it was so awkward and I felt so weird. And I had a homestay too. And it was just the most uncomfortable situation I'd ever been in, but it was so important to learning. So I advocate homestays for sure, and like immersion in a country to learn language.
Why was it uncomfortable for you?
Well, because I think in part because I'm so used to always sort of being the person who knows what's happening in a room. like I'm generally like a straight A student, very smart. And then in this new context, I'm like barely functioning. Like I don't know what's being talked about, how I can help in any way. And I'm just kind of like a plant in the room. I'm like, I don't understand and I wish I did. I'm sorry I'm not more helpful, you know? And like you talk to me and I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Otra vez? Like, I don't know. Could you say it again? Yeah. And sort of being forced to confront the fact that I'm not perfect at everything was also horrible. I hated that. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think your personality of like you want to be in the know or in control kind of contribute a little bit in your language learning? Because you just really want to embrace that, like, well, maybe not culture, but like the whole language aspect, and you can talk to people.
No, absolutely. And this is something I'm working on as a person. It's probably helped me in academic achievement, but as a person, it's a horrible way to be. When I like hear someone being better than me at a language, I'm like, oh my God, I need to get better. I need to learn this language even more. You know? And actually, you one of the first couple times that you spoke with me as a tutor in the library, you brought this other Mandarin speaker over and you guys were talking and I was pretending to understand what was happening so hard. You were like, and I was like, and you were like, oh yeah, she knows Mandarin. And I was like, yeah. And then the other speaker said something to me and I was like, and then the entire illusion just shattered. And I had, you know.
Well, and that's just normal. I mean, and so that's why I'm very encouraging for all the students who are learning a language because
no, you're an amazing tutor. Yeah,
thank you for saying that on my show.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then like so then in Spanish, like, did you like the culture? And like, of course, like your mom kind of asked you to learn Spanish, but like, why did you learn it so well? Like after the travel and all that, still a lot of people won't speak that much, right? Sasha right now is not sure what to say.
No. Sorry, my earphone fell out of my ear. So you see, at the time, I had a boyfriend who was from Mexico.
Oh.
And so I would talk to his family, and I was like certain we were going to get married, just like absolutely certain. So I spoke to him in Spanish, and I spoke to his family in Spanish, and I listened to Spanish songs. Like my entire culture was just like Spanish, and then some Russian, and then maybe American if I'm feeling it that day.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I kind of immersed not recommended for everyone in every situation ever, but if possible to you, great way to learn language, honestly.
Like, yeah, building up a romantic relationship will help. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's transition to Mandarin. Like after you come to college, and why?
You know, this is also a really exemplary, you know, it's a great example. I don't know how to speak English, of me being a little cocky person, you know, and really just going to college and being like, well, I already know Russian and Spanish, so I might as well just, you know, pick something hard. I need a challenge. So I was like, why not just Mandarin? You know, it must be easy since I'm so good at it.
Seriously? Like that went through your mind? Oh, that makes you, wow. I love
Isn't that horrible?
No, I like your honesty.
Yeah,
because we always have that little, like you call it what, cocky?
Yeah.
I like learn a new word. We always have that kind of cocky moments to like pat ourselves on the shoulder saying that we're doing great, let's achieve another thing. And you're just being completely honest about it.
Well, thank you, Ping, for supporting my horrible deeds, my horrible thoughts as a person. No, but that's kind of how it started. And, you know, underlying that was just how much I loved languages in general, because even during Spanish class, I was never upset to go to Spanish class. Senora Larraona was like a horrible, mean teacher, but like I persevered because I love the language. And I hope she's not listening. There's no way. But she was so scary, and I was so scared of her. But I loved Spanish, so I kept going to class. but in university, I was like, okay, I get to pick a language I actually like. And I really wanted to do something with characters, obviously, because I didn't get my Japanese. So I was like, Chinese, Mandarin, let's do it. Yeah.
Yeah. And how did that? So how does that go till now?
I've been struggling and suffering and doing horrible on tones and mispronouncing everything. And sort of getting better. And that's kind of how it's been. It's funny because I'll find, like, my mom bought some soy sauce recently and she's like, Sasha, what does this say? And I was like, well, this is the character for oil.
Hmm.
And out of the 200 on this bottle, that's the only one I know. And fun fact, I can't remember how to read this character, so I don't even know how to say it. So, and that's 2 years of Chinese for you. There you go, Mom.
Well, that's just like me being a Mandarin teacher. I have to say that it's like a lot of textbook Mandarin doesn't really apply to your daily survival Mandarin skills. So let's just teach a listener how to say soy sauce in Mandarin. It's 酱油.
酱油.
酱油. Yeah, I don't
Okay.
know why it's called 酱. 酱 is a sauce, yo is oil. So
Oh, it's
酱油.
yo. There it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know why it's not called soy sauce.
Soy sauce.
Soy sauce. Yeah, I don't know, but it's just 酱油. When you say
That's
the word,
good.
people will be happy.
Yeah. And learning Mandarin, I've started to go back through my entire process of learning Spanish. I feel like for
Yeah.
me, it's all very circular, learning a language.
Yeah.
It sort of starts with like not knowing anything, and that's okay because you don't know anything.
Yeah.
And then kind of going to this place where you can say some things, kind of, and that's sort of when you want to start talking to people as much as you can. But that's when it's like scariest to talk to people as much as you can because you
Yeah.
can't respond in ways unless they say something that's very scripted.
Yeah.
And so once you sort of get past that, you're in this territory where you can kind of say something maybe, but you're very stressed about saying it the wrong way. At least I am in Mandarin. So I
Yeah.
went to Yum Yum Spice, which is
Yeah.
a restaurant near DU, the University of
Yes.
Denver, where I go to school.
Yeah.
And like I made it 2 lines into a Mandarin conversation before I had to go, I'm so sorry. I'm just learning, man. I don't know. I don't know. And so the goal is just to keep getting longer, like longer conversations until I don't have to say that anymore. But yeah, the whole conversation, she was just like, it was something like 几口人, like how many people do you have? And I was like 4口人.
Mm.
And then she said something and I was like, oh,
Oh, pass that line. Sorry.
Sorry.
Out of my little box.
If I can give you my Chinese textbook, if you could read something out of this, and then I'll say something back, and then I'm just kidding. That's not how it works.
I know. But it's like I can hear you saying like you can learn so hard for some time, but there should be a motivational boost. And then you kind of become like that circle kind of start running, and then because you get a boost and then you start learning a bit more. But like it's almost like a curve. When you go all the way up, you feel great, and then something happened, you hit the wall, and then you dropped, and it's
Absolutely.
like, and then someone just had to say, I don't know, like you probably meet someone encouraging, or if something happened, like it's like, it's okay, Sasha, you can get back on the track. And then so that's, yeah, I can totally
Absolutely.
relate to that. It's
No, and those
so
moments
hard.
were definitely like when I came to you, and I was
Yeah.
like, "Hey, can you talk with me in Chinese so I can pretend that I know it and feel better?" And that's when like going to native speakers is so helpful.
Yeah.
Native speakers who know how to guide a new language learner through the process, because that's so important. You can't just talk to a native speaker, I found, because they're just so good at the language.
Yeah.
They don't always know how to slow down, and so like tutors in these instances are super important.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Well, so that's why there is a department for that, like a graduate school or degree for that. It's just it's a profession.
No, it's a skill. It's definitely a skill.
That's I just find you still very inspiring. It's just like your story is like languages and immigrant and identity. So, as a first generation immigrant, right now, if people come up to you, it's like, Sasha, where are you from? What would you say?
This is a great question. And I think this is also just very, very emblematic of the place that I've come to in my exploration of my own culture, is that if there's a question, like a lot of the time during syllabus week at university, it'll just be like getting to know each other in class. They'll be like, where are you from? What do you do? What is your major? Even when the question is like, what city are you from? Just to be pretentious, I don't say Aurora, Colorado. I'm like, Ulana de Buryatia is where I'm from. Just to like get people to ask, like, where is that? I'm like, I was in Russia, actually. I'm from Russia. I came to Russia. I'm from, like, I like seek those moments now because I just think it's so fun. It's so cool. It's just cool to talk about, right?
I know. Yeah. Wow, this is very, very cool because like your experience is definitely very different from those people who were born here. And even though they still have immigrant parents, but like they can't really have that saying like, I'm from a different city, like let's talk about it. So I do think you have the the advantage of bringing that up and then bring that multicultural aspect to wherever you are.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's hard because in a way, kids, people who grew up in America with immigrant parents don't share a very different life than I do. Like essentially the only difference is up to age 5, our lives were different, but after that, they're pretty much the same.
That's right.
And yeah, I do have this kind of very funny advantage of having been born in a different country, but coming here so soon that I hardly remember it. And I was able to assimilate into American culture very easily. But I can still kind of lay claim to the fact that I was born in a different country.
Yeah.
And so kind of with that great power comes great responsibility, not to overmilk that status I have.
Yeah.
But yeah, still kind of recognizing that that does affect my identity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do have a question. I was wondering because, given this time and situation here in the States, people have a lot of assumption about white. Does it come into your play when does it say, like, how do you say that thing? Does it come into play in your identity, saying because you just want to draw a line? I'm not a usual American white. I still share my Russian culture.
I never try to distance myself from the fact that I'm American because, quite frankly, I am fully American. And as someone who has had to struggle to become an American, I'm very protective of that. I think even more so than a lot of American people who are a little bit nervous about their identity in that sense, because being an American is something completely different for me. And for a lot of others, that sort of comes with the implications of sort of this very, this history of conquer and submission. And for me, it was a lot more of just this new opportunity to be an American. And I think in that sense, being an American is such a unique identity that it pains my heart every time I hear someone be like, I wish I wasn't an American. Because it's your culture. Do you know what I mean? And also when people say white people have no culture, that also bothers me. Because white people do have culture. Everyone has culture. You can't just not have culture. I think it's become very commonplace for people to sort of denigrate their own backgrounds just because it's not cool to be that culture. But do you know what I mean?
I think I do. It's that you don't want to put it in such a negativity of your culture being American, and also it saddens you because of that negative connotation. So people kind of shy away from that identity, but still, that identity still exists, and then there is a rich culture behind that.
Yeah, you summed it up a lot better than I did. Yes.
Thank you.
It was beautiful. Thank you.
And so, I don't know if I can talk about this on the show, but we can edit it out. You have a baby rush.
Oh my gosh, I want a baby so bad.
So then let's assume that if you have a baby one day, how would you raise them?
Oh, a wonderful question.
Thank you.
I've always wanted to teach my baby a different language. I don't know if I would be qualified to teach them Russian though. And that's what's stressful. Is even my Spanish is better than my Russian because Spanish is easier than Russian.
Oh, is it? I didn't know. Okay.
Yeah. No, yeah, it is. I'm so bad at grammar and actual functions of a language in Russian. I'm very good at conversationally.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, I know grammar and structure and vocab in Spanish.
Yeah.
But at the same time, my partner does not know any other languages. So if I taught a language to our child, it would be at the exclusion of him. So how do you work around that, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm thinking maybe some kind of international language school, but learning a language is imperative to me. There has to be, because I think for me, learning a language has been what allowed my brain to think in these different ways, not only to know Spanish, to know some Latin and be able to identify harder words, but also just recognizing the effect it has on intercultural communication and just being a better thinker and communicator in general. I think it's so important. Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. I'm just writing it down because this is powerful. Yes. So, wow. I look forward to how you raise your kids.
No, but wait, Pink, now you have to tell me.
Oh, it's not about me. Well, we'll open another episode about talking about that. I don't know. I mean, my situation is a lot different because it's just like me having an Indian husband. Well, we kind of talked about that. We don't know if we'll have kids, but like I'll be speaking purely Mandarin and he'll be speaking purely Hindi. But that's the thing, right? We don't really communicate in our how do you say that? We cannot communicate fully in each other's mother tongue. So right now at home we only speak in English. Of course there are words here and there in Hindi and Mandarin, but not up to a point that we can communicate. When I go back to his house, then I speak very poor Hindi. I can understand some of it, but still, like when it comes to like emotional, like the depth of the story, I can't really talk about that. I'm still learning Hindi, not trying to promote Duolingo, but like that's the cheapest way that I can learn language right now. It's very expensive, and then language is an investment. For him, he learned Mandarin for 2 years already. But you know, there's just not that much environment, and also language learning is very personal. I think me as a multilingual person, I have learned so many languages, and so Hindi comes in hand. That's super easy for me. I can grasp it, but I still need the time to remember and practice it. But so for him, it's not as easy as to grasp the idea, to remember it, and to practice it. So I don't know. I mean, but like one thing I can know is like when we talk to kids, we can't really talk in English. I find it very hard. It's not my heart language. So yesterday I was talking to my neighbor's kids. I was like, why do I feel like I can't even speak better than a kid of 5-year-old, right? So then I'm like, it became very clear when I'm teaching a kid, I need to speak my mother tongue, and that's it. Because English is still my second language, so I can fully express myself in Mandarin. Of course, there are concepts that I'm learning as ESL. It's different, but we're just going to keep that heritage language if we have kids.
But see, the thing is, if you take children through that process of learning multiple languages when they're young, at least with my sister, their language development will be slower. That's what makes it hard, is that you have to temper that.
That's two schools of, I learned that as well. Language acquisition. One school is saying that, it will hinder the language development. The other school is like they can quickly shift just like that. And then in the later days, they will learn a lot faster. Well, I don't have a conclusion.
Yeah, no, and I couldn't say on theory either, but for my sister at least, it was definitely when it was that we were both speaking Russian to her, her English was slower.
Yeah.
And so it kind of hurt her self-confidence going to an American school where they speak English. That was a lot harder.
Yeah.
So we just started speaking English.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, to her.
Wow. Yeah.
And now we're trying to bring it back, but it's hard now.
You probably, the time has
kind of lost the beautiful sponge moment.
Yeah. Wow. Cool. So today on Chai with Ping, we talked to Sasha about her identity as a bicultural person from Russia and to the US, and it's interesting to hear her perspective on cross-cultural differences. And she talked about her stories and examples that how she relates to different cultures and languages as she goes on to her college life. And she had a beautiful notion that I just learned that learning a language can actually open up the whole new world, adding up that intercultural communication competence, and for us to also respect and to consider a different culture, a different language, and the people different from us. Thank you so much for coming to the show, Sasha.
Thank you for having me, Ping.
Thanks for listening to Chai with Ping. Let us hear your voices and stories. Please share this episode, like and follow us on Instagram at Chai with Ping. You can also email us at chaiwithping@gmail.com. Till next time.